I'm in this stand-up shower,
Right.
having to wash dishes, sitting down in the stand-up shower. And I tell you, I'm so thankful that that shower was on, because I don't know what was tears and what was water from the shower.
Oh my God.
But that was one of those moments where I thought, I can't live like this.
Yeah.
Like, I can't keep going like this. Something's got to change.
Right.
It was a really scary feeling, and I felt like I was always wrestling with that you cannot be yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You can't show your true self. It's not safe. And really that messaging of like, if you are your true self, you're not welcome here. You're going to lose your family. You're going to lose your friends, like everything.
Right.
Dani Reid was kicked out of her home at 17 for being gay, worked midnights at a factory, spent years trying to make someone love her who didn't care if she lived or died, and built herself back from nothing twice. This is one of the most honest conversations I've ever had on the show.
Sometimes there's nothing more inspiring than being an out gay woman and working midnights in a factory in Chatham, Ontario, getting bullied at a factory to make you want to, better your life and move to a bigger city. So that really inspired me.
If you ever felt like you had to hide who you are to keep people around you, this one's for you.
Well, thanks, Dani, for coming on to my podcast, my Do Her Thing podcast. Can you first, for those who don't know who you are, introduce yourselves and what are you up to now?
My name is Dani Reid. I am a manual osteopath by trade, and I specialize in something called orofacial myology, and that's the study of the airway. So I help people with that have sleep apnea, all the way to people that have sciatica, back pain, all that great stuff, everything in between.
So I think the fun part was like Dani and I met doing a social media course. So this is where it's like, okay, how do you even meet how do you meet each other? And I think through it we were texting, and all of a sudden we're like, wait a minute, you're in Canada, because this was through,
and everyone else was in the States.
Yeah, everyone was in the States. And we're like, oh my gosh, you're literally an hour away. Like, we should actually meet up and like figure out like what we have in common, what are our businesses, what are we doing. And then I think that's where like you started talking about like your background, and that's where I was completely shocked of like, oh, so you do this, but you came from like small town Chatham, Kent.
Yeah,
right?
Shout out CK.
Shout out. So tell me about like how like your upbringing, because I know where you started isn't like where you kind of ended up.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to preface this with, it's as fun as it sounds when I tell you these stories. My parents ended up splitting up when I was about 6 years old, and my mom, quite quickly remarried. And she remarried into a group, which would be like a Dutch fundamentalist group. And so it's the Canadian Reformed or Free Reformed churches. So it's very strict, I would say like a very surveilled community. And so it's not like a very feel-good type of religion, I would say, like very strict. You're studying like Heidelberg Catechism. You have to go to youth groups. It's like church on Tuesdays, church 4 times on Sundays, and your whole lifestyle is that. So it was kind of this night and day difference, from kind of growing up normal, and then going into that. So one of my earliest memories are let's go over some of the messaging that you would get as a girl, especially, or even a gay person in that community. Number one, I would say, like, you're just not a priority. I remember being sat down as a family with this family meeting for my mom to tell us, and keep in mind, I'm like 7 at the time, that she loved her husband more than us because it's in the Bible. And so he was the main priority. And this is this person that we don't really know very well at this point. And so that was kind of heartbreaking. I'd say a normal theme for that community, and definitely feeling like you don't fit in there.
Right.
So we end up going to this private school. I could fit in a little bit better, but my siblings who have dark hair and dark eyes, like, they definitely stuck out.
Right.
I remember like on multiple occasions, the if you ain't Dutch, you ain't much was a common saying. And, all the kids would say, raise your hand if you're Dutch. And I would be the only kid in class, other than, my Vietnamese friend before he had to leave for racism. But that we would just be like sitting there, like humiliated. Like, you're just never going to fit in. Right. So that was a lot of the messaging. And then, at that same time, I start struggling with same-sex attraction and feeling like, okay, I don't want to feel this way. And you're trying to pray to God each night that this will change. And I like, prayed away. And I don't want to be like this. Like, this is definitely not welcome in this community. And so it was a really scary feeling. And I felt like I was always wrestling with that you cannot be yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You can't show your true self. It's not safe. And really that messaging of like, if you are your true self, you're not welcome here. You're going to lose your family. You're going to lose your friends, like everything.
Right.
And I have to say, like, I'm so thankful for my siblings who stuck by me and, my friends. I did have some really great core group of friends through school that stuck by me and helped me get through that because, I did end up choosing the latter choice of being myself. And it didn't go over so well.
Right.
So I ended up like coming out thinking, hey, I'm struggling with this, that type of thing. And it was kind of met with, if you're this way, you can't be part of our family.
Right.
And, to be fair, it's like, even if I was to hide that, I still wouldn't be totally accepted. So I went for that latter option and ended up getting kicked out of the house.
Oh.
And,
How old were you then at this point when you got kicked out?
I think I would have been 17 or 18. I was still in school.
Okay.
So you get hit with this hard reality that you need to pay bills.
Right.
And, you learn quickly. At that time, I don't want to date myself, but I didn't realize that you had to set up a landline and that there was a fee for setting up the landline. So I remember getting hit with this like $150 bill or something like that, which is insane. Not knowing like what to do. My first place was this like really crappy basement apartment.
Right.
And you just don't know a lot about life at that age. And I didn't really have anyone kind of guiding me there. So I just quickly thought, this is the cheapest place? Yep. All right, it's in a dangerous neighborhood, whatever. I can walk away from here during the day. And I ended up locking my door at night. I ended up not checking this, not thinking that I'd need to check this, but there was no kitchen sink.
Oh my God.
Right? So there's no kitchen sink. And then in the washroom, there was this sink, but it was really flat. And, there wasn't enough space to really even be able to wash anything.
Oh my God.
So that was one of my darkest moments. I don't know if they call that like dark night of the soul or whatever, but I had a few of those. And I'm in this stand-up shower,
right,
having to wash dishes, sitting down in the stand-up shower. And I tell you, I'm so thankful that shower was on because I don't know what was tears and what was water from the shower.
Oh my God.
But that was one of those moments where I thought, I can't live like this.
Yeah.
Like I can't keep going like this. Something's got to change.
Right.
And that's where, I ended up getting a job as a waitress and then getting into midnight working at a factory.
Right. So we were talking before, like, because I was trying to remember, like, what Chatham Kent is known for, right? And I thought it was the Heinz, but it's not the Heinz.
You know what? Funny enough, I moved from Leamington. Leamington has near the Heinz factory. That's how southwestern Ontario I am. And then we moved over to Chatham. Shout out Wheels Inn. I don't know if you've ever been to the Wheels Inn. It was a really cool spot, but we were really well known for the Wheels Inn. A lot of tourists from the States would come there.
Gotcha. So then what factory then did you have to work? Was it easy then for you as a teenager to be like, hey, I need to work, or
so thank goodness
work in this?
So at the time, I was really lucky to get into that place because my partner at the time, she got a job there first because of her brother-in-law.
Oh, really?
So I got in that way, and I feel like I don't know if I can get in trouble for this now, but I feel like I lied about my age.
So probably. So where's your high school diploma? Oh, it's coming.
So I'm not going to tell you the name of the it's the place. But yeah, I end up working midnights at this factory. And there's, like I said, sometimes there's nothing more inspiring than being an out gay woman and working midnights in a factory in Chatham, Ontario, getting bullied at a factory to make you want to, better your life and move to a bigger city. So that really inspired me. I ended up going to school as a mature adult, enrolling in business school at the same time.
Oh,
so
okay.
I started getting those courses
from trying to still pursue education, keep going.
I just knew I had to do something.
Right.
I felt like that was a ticket out. Like I needed something to get out of that city.
Right.
And so going into those courses and then ending up transferring over into London, Ontario, which, I had some friends from high school that were there.
Okay.
And it was just an easier transition and just a better environment, more opportunities.
Okay. So you said that you went from midnights in a factory to sales and then banking. So what did that world give you and what did it cost you, right? Physically, emotionally, and then in terms of trying to like impress people who didn't really care about you, like what was that? Where did that come from?
That's a great question. Wow, that was such a big transition. And
I started to jump.
yeah, no, but it's one of those things where, and I love that you're doing this podcast about
Reinvention, yeah.
yourself,
The middle.
because it's this huge messy middle part, and oftentimes it's like it's really not the destination; it's the journey.
Yes.
And so when I got out of that factory and I ended up into this bigger city, I'm working at a bar, that type of thing. Like so many people, I ended up going to drinking and partying versus going to therapy. But like hindsight's 2020. Yeah, hindsight's 2020. Okay.
Of course, you're like, whatever.
Yeah.
But like, I'm living my life.
I'm like, oh,
our parents, like, whatever.
wow, if I drink this, I'm really outgoing and like I'm going to all these parties and meeting people. Wow, this is a great tool. Yeah, I'm going to utilize this tool for a while.
Yeah.
And so, long story short, really ended up falling into the wrong crowd of people. And maybe I was the wrong crowd for a bit too.
Right.
So, I ended up
So this is
being
like when you're like in your like
early
20s. Yeah,
Yeah.
early 20s.
And so I become completely enamored with this person who didn't love me back the same. And if there's anyone out here watching, this, I would say stop.
Okay.
Recognize. Stop. Recognize. Say to yourself a lot of times, like love yourself, like learn to love yourself. But I just became completely enamored with this person, and they had a lot of struggles on their own, and I think they had a lot of issues even loving their self. But for me, it was so much easier for me to focus on someone else that had a bunch of problems than to focus on my own problems.
Right.
So I end up, partying, all this stuff, getting involved with, some of the wrong crowd, and end up kind of dating this person that won't come out of the closet. And that caused a lot of issues too for my self-esteem.
No
And
way.
yeah, it was really
Was this your first girlfriend, the one that you dropped out of high school for, or was it different?
different one.
Different
So
one.
we had broken up once I had gotten to the bigger city. It just
Yeah.
like we weren't on the same path. And I end up, getting enamored with this person. We live with each other on and off, in a 1-bedroom apartment, but we're just friends.
This is my roommate.
It all song and dance. So yeah. So long story short, I'm getting involved in that. I was living my whole life for that person to impress that person
Really?
who didn't give a shit about
Who
me.
didn't even care about
But
you?
I just wanted to make a bunch of money.
Yeah.
And I thought that they would love me more if I made a bunch of money and I would stick by them through all this stuff. So even at this time, like I'm in my early 20s, I'm going to the methadone clinic each day.
Oh.
Trying to help someone else with their issues. And I mean, I'm grateful for those experiences. It's really eye-opening, and I have a lot of compassion for the people that are in those experiences. But it was one of those situations like the factory where I kind of was like, what am I doing here?
Right.
I don't think I'm going to be happy in this setting long term, and I need to make some changes to work on myself and work on my life and get out of this situation. So I end up, getting into sales, getting the opportunity to leave the city for a while and do territory sales. So that was really helpful, kind of getting out of that situation.
Yeah.
And then, being surrounded by really inspiring women, like a lot of the women that I was working with, so like the Yellow Pages, for example, I was younger. I was the youngest by, I think, around 20 years.
Oh.
Yeah. So I just had these kick-ass women, role models that really taught me a lot about life and shared a lot of their experiences about, being with the wrong people and, being careful about the company you keep, that type of thing. Not that I took that lesson that advice right away. I mean, I waited about 10 years to really have that soak in, but helpful nonetheless. So yeah, that was a really special time in my life. There was a lot of painful moments and there was a lot of really great moments. But when I look back, that was a pretty dark time for me overall.
Because it seemed like there was two things happening, right? Like your career was like skyrocketing, you're in the right direction, but then you have this like your romantic life is just not it's mirroring itself, right?
It's skyrocketing, but
the other side is like
I don't respect myself, and I don't even care about my own happiness. And the more money I made, the sadder I felt.
Really?
And the more money I made, the more I spent on things trying to impress someone that didn't care if I lived or died.
Right.
So it's like I'm trying to
Good.
buy purses, I'm trying to buy clothes to fit in, I'm going out for expensive dinners and going out for drinks all the time, and I had like no savings. I had nothing. Like I'm driving this flashy car, living in a nice neighborhood and everything. And it was so sad because I was spending all this money trying to impress somebody else instead of setting up my life for success.
Wow.
And that gets tiring.
Yeah, I
That's
can
it.
imagine.
Yeah.
You're like, I can only make so much money. Okay, so at what point did your body and your mental health start saying, I can't keep living like this? And what made you move careers, right? Because sales, and then now you're like an osteopath. That's a huge jump, right?
Mm-hmm. So around that time, I remember being out at a party. It was like we were out all partying, whatever. It was wintertime. And I had like a bunch of drinks at this point. And I just remember like everyone had kind of gone inside and I was last to get out of this, like the back of this vehicle. Who even knows whose vehicle it was? And I'm like getting out, whatever. I tripped and I fell and I felt like I was kind of choking a bit.
Oh.
And
Like on the ground?
Yeah.
Like you fell hard.
Yes. And so I just remember like, I'm drinking a lot. I felt like I was kind of joking. And I just remember like no one even looking back. And it was just this like weird, and it was no one's fault. Like they were all just inside. Their whole thing was like, let's party, whatever, let's just get this going. And I just realized that I was like, if something like really serious happened to me out here, like who would have even come out to check on me?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it was just that feeling of like, are these my friends? Like, is this what I want my life to be?
True.
Or waking up with anxiety the next day. Those are all things I don't really miss. I started,
Where does the anxiety come from? Just
drinking.
okay.
I don't know if you've ever been hungover before, but
Oh yeah, many days. Yeah. I don't think I was anxious. I was more like regret.
but you're just like, what did I do? How much money did I spend? That type.
Oh, true. Yeah.
You know what it is, right?
I think that was a big one.
Yeah. Where I'm like, I'm thinking I'm hilarious, but like, thank God there wasn't like, can't like video phones out there like there are now.
Blessed that we didn't have cell phones, social media back then when we were doing our thing. Like,
out in the cornfields. Yeah. So yeah, I was really inspired by a woman that I worked with. She had gone through so much in her life. Like she was just so resilient. And she was one of the top salespeople. She had she looked like Michael Jordan, right? She had like the full, like all of her hands were filled with like top salesperson waves at the time. Yeah, I was like, damn, this chick is so cool. But she had been through so much. She was such a great advocate for women in general. And she really pushed me to get help. She pushed me to try things like EFT, so that like tapping. She pushed me to, try things like different therapies or, different alternative health stuff, Reiki, all kinds of stuff. And so at that time, like I was struggling with a lot of low back pain. So at this time I'm like working for the bank. I'm working all of southwestern Ontario and I'm driving in this freaking sports car that's like just not ergonomic at all.
Yeah.
And I was just under so much stress and just not happy. Right. So I definitely was not treating my body right. Drinking and all that stuff like really adds up. And my sister ended up introducing me to someone that she said could help. And I ended up going for a couple of sessions, not even knowing what to expect, just being open-minded to it. And it just absolutely changed my life. Yeah. So it just absolutely, So osteopathy, Rolfing, like those just absolutely opened me up, like broke me wide open.
Really?
And at that point I started challenging, those inner thoughts that are saying you're not enough, you'll never be enough for this person, that type of thing. And I started breaking into a new community of people that were very kind.
Right.
And like health conscious. And, open to talking about things and dealing with things. So that really was a huge step in my life. And it really inspired me to drop this life that wasn't really serving me.
Right.
And move into a field that made me feel good.
So how many years was that of you working in finance? Like your body's taking a toll, your partner's not really a partner. Like how all of a sudden, like how many years was that before you decided like, okay, I think I need to?
I think that was probably around 5 years.
Really?
Yeah. And to be honest, like this is an embarrassing moment, but to be honest, I went on and off with that person for even 5 years after that.
Oh my God.
Yeah. because I just always had this constant feeling, this constant message that was like, you're not enough, you're not a priority,
Yeah.
you can't be your true self. Like you have
Yes.
to change yourself for somebody to love you. You know, this is just how
Even-
I was
even-
normal feeling that way.
Right. Even when you're like, so yeah, you had that message when you were growing up, but then now even when you're like older and out and it's supposed to be living your life, you still have that.
Yeah. And there's even times like being in certain work settings where I wouldn't want to be out, you know?
Yeah.
Or I would just kind of hide, or like I wouldn't correct people, and they're like,
Yeah.
"How's your boyfriend?"
Yeah. You're like, she's great.
Yeah. Sam is good.
By the time you left finance, you had already been looking into osteopathy. What was it about it that grabbed your attention and made you think, this is what I want to do next? And you have to go back to school for all this, right? Like the training and all that. So then what was that like? I want to change. I want to go back to school, making this new decision. How do you make that leap?
It wasn't easy. It had definitely been on my mind for a while. I just thought it was such a cool profession. And I mean, I think a lot of in the alternative health space, there's so many cool professions in there. Like I have a lot of respect for the people in that space and health, the health space in general. I would say at that time, I was really stressed out. I was actually making the most money I had ever made in my career. And I remember I worked with companies that brought in $5 to $250 million a year.
Cool. Wow.
And so we'd be doing like big deals, like wire transfers for $1 million, setting up that type of stuff. And I was working with this mom and pop shop in Windsor and going back and forth, setting up. And these deals take months to get to be signed.
Yeah.
So I was so excited. We're supposed to get this signed. And then it's the day of, and I get this really sad call. And it's from one of the women that I'd worked with there. And she let me know that one of the owners had passed away unexpectedly.
Oh, no.
And they were a really close-knit group there.
Right.
And I just said, my condolences. I sent flowers. Like, don't worry about it. Let's meet in a week or two. You let me know type of thing. And I remember having this call with my boss, who she absolutely hated me, which, I get it at the time. Maybe I wasn't very into the job. So to be fair to her, she just hated me. She always gave me a really hard time. And so she said, this was supposed to come in. Where was it? It was the end of the month. And I said, that person passed away. And she said, you should have been there. You should have got the signature. Like, that doesn't matter. Like, you should have pushed forward. Yeah. And then at that moment, I was like, they just treat people like numbers.
Yeah.
Right? They're not even treated like a human being. Like, these people were devastated.
Yeah.
And right then on that call, which I regretted for a little while, I said I quit.
Oh.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I'd given my resignation. Yeah. Because I thought I had already reached out to some of the schools. Like I already had like, okay, how am I going to pay for this? Yeah. I'd already looked into that stuff. And then I just thought, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore. And, for a couple of years after that, I thought, whoa, that was wow, should have stayed in there a little longer.
I know what it's like to wash my dishes in a shower.
Yeah, totally. And too, like with businesses too, like a really tough life lesson is when at that time when I was mapping out what my business would look like if I transitioned, I was thinking, I was looking at it through rose-colored glasses, and I was looking at best case scenarios.
Oh,
right. You're just thinking like, oh, each month I just have to see this many people. This is going to happen each month, that type of thing. And I really wasn't setting myself up for success there. So that would be one thing that I definitely put in my pocket moving forward. It was to kind of, have some leeway there for things not going right.
But with but how many sessions did you have with your osteopath to be like, oh, this is what I want to do in terms of helping people with their bodies and helping them, I guess, like get back to normal life, get back to what they're used to?
So at that time, I had gone through something called the 10 series.
Okay.
And typically someone who's like a Rolf or someone who does structural integration is trained in that modality.
Okay.
They would walk you through that. And that's where you go through the whole body, like from the head to the toes.
And that's what you went
stomach, everything. Yeah. Okay. And it was just life-changing. It was just incredible.
Really?
They say that that's the most intense of the physical therapies, like it bridges into like a physical somatic therapy.
Right.
So it was just really, really helpful. I worked through a lot of stuff. I had a lot of like emotional holding patterns that, I had, accrued,
Mm-hmm.
and it really helped me let go of that.
Okay. Because I'm trying to think like it's always that thing where whenever you go into like a health professional, like, oh, I just have back pain. And they're like, okay, sure. Let's like talk through all of your stuff. And then you realize like, oh, this represents something. All of these represent something.
Mm-hmm. And you know what's interesting? It wasn't at that 10 session. If any of you have gone through the Rolf 10 series and stuff like that, you know that there's emotional themes to each session.
Yes.
Right? So it's like a recipe of osteopathic techniques that we'd go through. And so when I really had a lot of these big changes were the core sessions. So it was around session 4, 5, and 6 where
Really?
really big changes. Yeah.
No way. So do you do this now with your clients or?
Yeah.
Really?
Not all the time. Like, I mean, I'm very like open to what's going on. But there are still people that come in that ask for the Rolf 10 series.
Really?
Yeah. And it's life-changing. Like, that's one of the biggest joys of my job is to see people bloom.
Okay.
And you should see someone on the first session when they come in and they've decided like something's going on that they need a big change.
Yes.
Whether it's physical or maybe they had a loss of a loved one.
Mm-hmm.
And then to see them at the end, the type of person that they are, and their aura and everything like that, it's just incredible.
I love that. I really love that. So you kind of talked about osteopathy, but like at a high level. So what does a session look like for you when you meet somebody?
I think it's really important with sessions. I would say like someone coming in for their first session, what I hear most, especially from women, is that oftentimes they don't feel heard.
Oh.
So they've gone to a bunch of other practitioners. They want to try and figure out what's going on, but they just don't really feel heard. So a really important piece for me is that I sit down with them and we talk, and they can talk for 5 minutes, 20 minutes, the whole session, whatever they need to get out and share.
Okay.
And then we come up with a plan from there. And so even with things like orofacial myology, someone could be coming in and, their shoulder hurts and they're having bad sleeps, but then we might look at, okay, why are you having bad sleep? So we might check their airway. Okay, do you have a tongue tie? Do you not have enough space there?
Okay.
A lot of women struggle with upper airway resistance syndrome.
Okay.
But if they were to go to, it's almost like they
can't breathe properly or get enough air.
Yeah, so they're not getting enough air, proper oxygen intake, but if they were to go get a sleep apnea test, it would probably come back maybe mild.
Okay.
Like I think those sleep apnea tests are very skewed for how men sleep.
Yes.
So there's a lot of women that come in with sleep issues, and that affects everything.
Really?
Brain fog, everything.
What?
Yeah. If you're not getting good sleep, right? Like,
This is true.
that adds up. Like you're, grinding your teeth all like this. Like, do you think you're in, rest and digest, or do you think you might be in fight or flight? You're right. So we have to look at stuff like that, like the body as a whole, right? As an ecosystem, not just one little branch. So we look at all that stuff, and I'm the first to say, if someone comes in and I feel like they would get better help at this point in their journey from another practitioner, a great example of that would be an airway specialist. So they could come in and they're going, I'm grinding all the time. I'm having headaches every day, that type of thing. You could go and look and see that their palate is like incredibly, narrow and arched, and they're probably not breathing properly. So I would send them to an airway specialist.
But you
first.
That diagnosis, you can see it, or you.
I don't diagnose
Okay.
anything. I would just send them to I would keep it in my scope and send them to someone whose scope it would be to take a look and assess those things, do, the CBT scans and all that stuff. Right. I think it's really important that you set your ego aside, right? I think it's easy to fall into that trap. And I think, a lot of people starting off, and I was no stranger to this either, is that we have egos and we're like, this fixes everything because it helped me so much. So it fixes everything, or anything that could be going on with somebody, this fixes it. Right. And that's just not the case. It's a team approach. Mm-hmm. I was watching the Celine Dion, I don't know what it was, documentary? Yeah. And I thought it was really moving when she said, if you want to go fast, go alone. And if you want to go far, go as a team.
Yes.
And I think it should be a really big team approach with things. So if someone's coming in, I'm happy to be a team member here and refer them out to the right person. And I have to trust that they'll come back. They'll respect that I did that, and they'll come back and they'll refer people. And also, you know, a lot of people coming in, they've spent so much money on other practitioners.
Mm-hmm.
So I unless if they're coming in saying, I want to do the 10 series, which can be really transformative, I will usually say, let's take it one session at a time. I'm not going to make you sign up for a 20 session package. I think that's sending out the wrong message.
Yes.
And that you might not think that person's going to get better very
Yeah,
quickly.
true.
So it's like, let's give people their power back and let's just take it one step at a time.
Right. So we haven't talked about this, but I've talked openly about my injury, right? And
Mhm.
so I think when we were texting during our social media course, and I was saying like I'm a rugby player, I do all these things, Dani's list of like questions for me, I think, was just like, have you had a concussion before? Have you done da-da-da-da-da? And this is before I even got injured. I was like, yeah. And I was so chill. I was like, yeah,
Relax, it's never going to happen to me.
yes, I'm cool. Like, it's fine. I'm healthy. And then I get like hit. So I was telling Danny what my diagnosis was. So I got hit playing rugby. I actually got kneed in the head. And then the girls told me I hit the ground. My head hit the ground twice. So nobody came to see me because they just thought I would just like get up. But when I got hit, like I couldn't feel my arms. So that I was like literally screaming on the field. And eventually people started coming over. So everyone and the medics, they were like baby medics. They wasn't even like a proper person. So they're trying to be like, I think she has a concussion. Let's check her eyes. And the sun's blaring in my face and they're just trying to fix it. I was like, no, I was fully aware for this. So then as my feeling came back, they're like, we have to send you to like the hospital, right? So like, I think having the first time having to be put in an ambulance on a stretcher with like a neck brace was just like, oh my God, this is not how I wanted like my rugby career to kind of end. And it was like the night before my birthday.
Oh,
Yeah. So I had all these plans where I was like, we're going to go line dance. We're going to do all these things. And everyone's like, trying to be they're trying to be like, yeah, don't worry, Richelle, we're going to go line dancing tonight. And in my mind, I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm on a stretcher right now. So then when they were looking, when they did and I'm in Sarnia, okay? I'm not even in Hamilton, right? So I got sent to like the Sarnia hospital where they're just like, okay, like writing things on a piece of paper, like just like get your MRIs, get your x-ray. So they did the x-ray. They had like the neck brace on. The guy's like, oh, everything came back fine. Nothing's broken. But I was like, no, but my arms aren't feeling right. And he's like, oh, we'll send you for an MRI. Then he goes in and he's like, oh, we're going to put a different neck brace on you now. And it was like 3 people putting a neck brace on me. So you were like, what's going on? Right. So it's like, I don't understand. I was like, I don't understand what's happening. And they're like, okay, we have to send you to another hospital because we don't deal with this. And of course, I'm like, why can't you just send me back to him? And then they're like, we're going to send you to London because that's the closest like place. And then I'm in the ambulance and, I'm chatting with the girl, like the people in the back chatting with the girls. And I'm like, can I have some water? And they're like, oh, you might need surgery. We can't give you anything. And I'm like, what does this mean? Why is nobody telling me anything? And then finally, when I got like assessed, I think the resident's like, your symptoms are so mild for your injury because he goes, you have like 2 herniated discs that are pressing up against your spine. It's causing a spinal cord signal change, and we don't know if this is affecting your arms. But we might need to surgery if nothing gets better, but you're getting better, so we're going to hold. But the surgery, Danny, was like, it's the one where they cut your throat. Like, they would have to cut here. He was telling me, he was like, we would have to cut here. We would have to move over your esophagus, hope we don't hit your artery, take out the discs, put them back in, hope that this helps with your arms, and hope that we don't paralyze you.
And I would imagine that's pretty high risk.
Yeah, it's pretty high risk. And I love talking to the ambulance drivers, like, oh, this is pretty routine. I've heard some mountain climbers get this and they're back up it. And then I'm like reading it and I'm like,
You're on Google.
I'm on Google. I'm on Google. And because even the residents like, you can Google this. So I Googled it. I'm like, yeah, I don't think this is like what I want.
Yeah, and I have cancer?
And exactly. And you don't know if this is gonna fix me. Like, what? You just want to go all this like slice away. So I think that was like the moment of like, okay, my family eventually came, and that's I think the hardest part was, oh, who's your emergency contact? And you're like, oh, this is real now. Like I actually like people they have to come and get me, chill with me, and then in the hospital they're like, oh, family's always trying to be like, don't worry, you'll get better. Like you'll get stronger. Like just keep working on your arms. And you're like, but how?
I'm not supposed to move
I'm not
that.
supposed to do anything. I'm supposed to lie here. Like I'm told not I'm supposed to do anything. And like that night in the hospital, like I had a happy birthday, right? Everyone's like, "Oh, happy birthday." And then they all like left because they had to go and like get stuff for me because they knew I had to stay over. And then I remember the girl that was sharing the room with me, she was like in septic. She was septic. So all the attention was on her.
Oh.
Like, they were like constantly in her room. And I'm like, nurse, I need to go to the washroom. No? Yeah. So it was kind of like one of those moments. And then finally, like in the or when they like when they admitted me, it was literally just like, okay, this is just I need to just figure out how to like get things going. And thank God my mother was a healthcare aide because I still had my friggin' uniform. I had all my stuff on. Like I literally was like from the field to the hospital. So I'd be like, Mom, like you have to shower me. Like you have to take all this stuff off. And we had to do it with my neck brace on. She's like, oh my God, like let's try. But those are those moments where like, wow, this is where being Filipino and having a mother who was in healthcare, like this is clutch right now. She's helping me. And you're just like, shower me down, like whatever I'm doing. I was mad at her because she brought clothes I had never worn in my life to the hospital. I'm like, why are you?
Yeah, they're like, this really?
When I've ever worn this shirt, these pants, like never.
Adds insult to injury.
Literally, like when have I worn this? So like, but it was one of those things where like all of a sudden that whole identity of like
Gone.
rugby player, and it was supposed to play in Germany with another team. And when the surgeon's like, "Oh, I'm not you're not cleared for anything," he's like, "You just need to do nothing, and you're allowed to walk." I was like, "Oh my gosh, what's the recovery?" You know what I mean? When you're like, "What's the recovery here?" So that's where this whole like podcast came from, because I'm like, I need to kind of talk about that process, like the healing journey. Other people have gone through this, and it's like there's always these connections. Like, oh my gosh, I felt the same thing. Like, how did you get through it? What was your reaction? Or it's not like it's like in the movies. Like, it's not like it's like in Hollywood where all of a sudden, like, fast forward and it's done, right?
And I think too, like, you had your team. Your mom was clearly part of your team. She's probably the captains.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. The general.
Yeah. But I think an easy place for people to go to is that we want like an easy pill sometimes.
Yeah.
And we want to find someone that, would be able to just fix us. And, even for a while when I thought about that person that helped me, like, I thought that like they had healed my life and they had changed me. And I think in that like alternative space, we often get, people call themselves healers, which I would say is very worrisome. If someone's calling themselves a healer, like, probably not a healer. I don't think a healer would call themselves a healer. But it's like we look at your situation where you're like in complete despair, right?
Yeah.
Your identity is just wiped out, and it was something that you loved and was such a big part of your...
And the other thing is like, I'm healthy. I think that was the biggest thing. It's like, I'm actually healthy. And then now I'm told, like, no, you have a issue, which apparently was always there, which I never would have known unless this happened. So, you think of like blessing in disguise, right? Like some friends are like, imagine if you went to Germany and something serious happened, like how would anybody help you there? At least here, I had the support, like you said, the team, the friends, like the family to actually help me through it.
And you made all of those steps.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't think like the only person that someone is able to heal is themselves. Right. And you look at like your scenario where you got injured. You probably went to like a handful. If it sounded like you actually tried like at least a handful of different stuff, red light therapy, all kinds of stuff.
All of it. I did the energy healing because I'm like, they don't have to touch me. Eventually, when I got cleared, I was doing some I did the laser therapy, which I don't know, like red light therapy. I don't know if that helped, but I was joking with people. I was like, well, I can meditate for 15 minutes while this thing is like on me. I did acupuncture. I did the Reiki, like all of the stuff. Mostly, I think water was helping just to calm my body, right? Calm the neck, because it's hard to like get up to the neck when you're,
And you're weightless. Like, were you doing one of the float tanks?
No, I would just go into pools because I think that was where I was like, this is where I can just chill. Like, because my body was so inflamed that I can go into water and just like relaxed that way.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone was always like laugh at me because I'm always like healing energy in the water. I'm like, no, man, this is going to help me.
Yeah.
All of that stuff.
But I mean, here you are, right?
Yeah,
Like you made
exactly.
all of those steps, those like tiny little unglamorous steps. Like you made all those choices. You picked up the phone to call and make those appointments. And you
True.
got in the car and you drove yourself to those appointments. So it was really you that, took your power back from that really where you felt powerless.
Yes.
You took your power back. You even went as far as to create a podcast to highlight women that are reinventing themselves, right? Like that's absolutely incredible. You are now at healer status.
Oh, yeah. Look at that. Guru Richelle. I love that. So now let's fast forward because now, or not even just say where we are, but so you had somebody who you loved but didn't love you back, went on your journey of trying to, fulfill yourself, fill your cup first. And then now you've got married.
Yay! Yeah. So speaking of identities, no.
She's a married woman now.
Yeah, I'm a married woman. I never would have, if I would have asked my 23-year-old self if this was possible, I would have said absolutely not.
No.
I had to do a lot of work on myself, and part of that, messy middle, a big, and to be fair, I still think I'm in the messy middle. Yeah. It's that funny. You feel like you've made a destination and then you're like, oh no, like this other stuff, life's throwing at me this other stuff. And like, still these unhealed parts of myself get grabbed in. But I realized, so I, get into my career, that type of thing, but I still have these bad habits and, binge drinking, caring about being out partying or at events and stuff like that. And I realized it just wasn't healthy. Like I took a look around and I was like, I think this might be holding me back a bit.
Right.
Or at least from getting stuff done on Sunday mornings, And I decided that I wanted to become the best partner that I could be. And I definitely wasn't being the best partner if I'm out, all I care about is being out partying with my friends. So I decided to quit drinking. And even at this time, like throughout all these years, you meet different people and people that you connect with and even like, dare I say trauma bond with.
Yeah.
And so during the COVID, I had 2 friends of mine pass away. One had died from an overdose and the other one had taken their life.
Oh my God.
And these were people I partied with. And they were like rays of sunshine, right? So it wasn't expected. And that really stopped me in my tracks.
Right.
And I realized that I was like, you know what? I have to deal with some of this pain. Like I have to deal with some of this stuff that kind of keeps popping up. We're like an onion, right? There's like so many layers.
Yes.
You peel back a layer and I'm feeling better. And then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, I got to peel back another layer here. There's like more stuff coming up. And I had to have like a real come to Jesus moment where I'm like, I do feel dependent on this. Like I do feel like if I'm going to an event, like I have to have a drink beforehand or like I'm very nervous in certain situations. So you wouldn't know it. And so I just challenged myself and I just stopped drinking.
Cold turkey.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would be fine. Like, let's say if I'm at a wedding and there's a glass of wine or something, I could toast and take a sip or something. But it's not something that I would like really actively partake in at all. And it really helped me focus on going back to therapy, dealing with these other unhealed parts of yourself, which, hey, I'm still not fully healed. Let's like be real.
Yeah.
But really like putting effort into that and showing up as a better person and a better partner and a better practitioner.
Right.
And if I could look back, I wish I would have quit that sooner, but everything happens for a reason. I ended up, being a couple of years single and I found the love of my life, someone who is just, I don't even deserve. Even to this day, she's like just fantastic. And I have a beautiful stepdaughter and they have brought me so much joy in my life. And that's why I wake up in the morning,
Lovely. Did you ever think you would be a stepmom?
Never. Never.
What is that like?
Yeah, you know what? It brings up so many mixed emotions because I had it felt like such a turbulent and, a lot of negative parts of my childhood had to do with that. And I felt so scared. It's crazy how you're like, oh my God, I'm so scared of messing up.
Yes.
I think that's just part of being a parent in general, but I don't want to mess this kid up, right?
Aw.
And so it really makes you do a lot of deep diving. And again, I think like therapy is such a helpful tool. EMDR therapy is like so underrated, and I feel like a lot of people forget about that. Even in situations like with trauma, like physical trauma, like yours, like how scary would that have been to be laying there, not having feeling in your arms, seeing an ambulance, all kinds of stuff.
It was one of
Your mom washing you, the terrible outfit. Like,
Oh my God.
they're always
all of it.
all very
and then,
traumatic.
you know, like everyone's trying to be like, how are you? All this stuff. And you're like, I don't even know what.
You don't know who I am. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what's happening. Like, I can't tell you anything. Like, yeah, totally. But
So that definitely, I feel like helps you build up a lot of resilience. And
Yes.
to like being
Mhm.
careful about your identity. You know,
Yeah.
I used to have my whole identity was my practice.
Yeah.
And so when something like COVID happened 2020, where we weren't allowed to work for about a year and a half, I was like, who am I?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know who I am anymore. So it's like, be
yes.
careful putting all your eggs in one basket, right?
Mm-hmm. Very true. Okay. AI is just like always the hot topic. So now that AI and technology are kind of are at the forefront, right? Where do you see what you do fit in, right? In terms of whether they're self-diagnosing or they're using ChatGPT as their best friend or their therapist. And then you're like, actually, I'm a practitioner who's licensed. Like, let me help you on this journey. So how do you dealing with those new contradictions?
You know what? I've never really thought of it that way. When I think of AI, I'm like, cool, it can help me take notes better. Like, this is good. I would say on a positive note, one thing that's been really surprising for me is the amount of women who have ended up in my office through their own research,
Okay.
through things like for airway specifically.
Right.
So most of my referrals would come from airway dentists, doctors, ENT, stuff like that. And they would, someone would go into them and then they'd say, hey, you need to go to Dani for either getting prepped for this procedure, or you need to do some kind of like almost like airway physio on these muscles that are dysfunctional. But I've been so surprised because I've had women come in, book that service, so for myofunctional therapy, and then I'm like, oh, okay, who referred you? Oh, I found it myself. I started putting my symptoms into this. I think I might have a tongue tie. And they're right. Like every single case that's come in, they're correct. So
like,
I'm
what's your prompt, girl? Like,
right on. Like there's certain, you even look at the world of mast cell activation syndrome and POTS, the dysautonomia family, right? Which mainly affects women.
right.
And sadly, I'm a woman and I've dealt with the healthcare system here. And oftentimes you go in there, and I had my own stuff with PTSD and whatever. And I was often met with, here's an antidepressant, or you can go on birth control. Right? Almost anything. Like you could go in with the flu and they're like, do you need birth control? It's like, no.
You're like, no, I'm okay. And
I'm good. Yeah. But again, like with women just not feeling heard.
Yeah.
So like they're doing, hey, I'm having hives. I'm having these bloating. I feel dizzy when I stand up, that type of thing. I'm having more and more women coming in kind of like knowing about these symptoms, feeling like something is off.
Yes.
And then sharing that. And then we do the best that we can to get them directed into the right help.
Right. So you had talked before that you also had like hives and stuff, right? In terms of, was that stress or was that food related or was that like drinking related?
So that is a great question. That was actually POTS related. So that was dysautonomia. So that's the dysfunction of the autonomic nervous system.
Okay.
So you could be eating certain things.
Yes.
And like soy sauce, or let's say like strawberries or pineapple, or high histamine. Beer and wine are very high histamine.
Yes.
Which makes sense with some of my earlier reactions. Soy sauce, all kinds of stuff that you wouldn't necessarily think, like kombucha, kimchi, stuff like that would be like healthy, right?
Yeah.
But for someone that is dealing with dysautonomia, there can be times where they are eating that and their body is reading it like they are allergic to it. They're reacting that way.
It's not an allergy.
So it is a reaction, but it's not a true allergy. So this is where it can be really frustrating for people going in, as they go to their doctor. Hey, I have hundreds of pictures of me having a full-blown like rash in the same area every single time I eat this food. Okay, let's do an allergy test. They do the allergy test. It comes back fine.
Yeah.
Right?
And
so
okay,
you're like, no, this is real. This is happening. I look like I'm 9 months pregnant, when I have avocado, It's like I don't know, like, can you help with this? Here, throw me a bone.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of the times like that testing, it just is the way that they're testing and things that they're testing is not helping. So
Right.
there's a program, I believe, at the Women's College for POTS, which would be postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And that's marked by basically like you could stand up and you could just be doing something normal. We could just be like this. You could stand up and all of a sudden you just feel kind of dizzy, right?
Oh.
Like you feel. So I was having a lot of that happening.
Interesting.
EMDR therapy helped a lot with that.
Okay.
HOCl oral swish helped a lot with that, which kills bad bacteria, but it keeps the good bacteria.
Do you have to? Is that like starvation or something or no?
No, it's a swish. It's an oral swish. Yeah.
Really?
So yeah. So there's a Dr. Janice Goodman in town.
Okay.
I think her website might be dentalrebel.com.
Okay.
She has that product there. She gives it to people. It's really helpful. Yep.
I'm going to be trying a lot of these. Watch Richelle the healer now becomes Richelle the patient again and be like, I just want to try all these different.
Yeah. And I mean, by no, I'm not giving out medical advice or anything,
exactly.
just like my own experience. But like in the world of POTS and mast cell and stuff like that, you can find so much actual helpful information in the communities on Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah,
TikTok.
right.
So that's where I found out, oh, okay, like taking a Claritin, you can help with this. Taking Pepsid AC, that's another duo that people will use often to help break that cycle of the mast cells going crazy.
Right. Something so simple.
Mm-hmm.
What is like next for you, I guess, or what is the next like 2026 hold, or
You know what? That's a great question. It's I don't want to give away too much. Like my wife is in the States, and in the whole theme of reinventing yourself, I used to care so much about other people's opinions,
Yeah.
and what they would think. And I think too with like reinventing yourself, we often think of it, through TikTok and Instagram as this like phoenix rising moment where you're just like, you just have this one moment and it changes everything, and you go from like the before picture to the after picture. But I think it's a lot of like small unglamorous steps.
Yes.
And so I'm just taking some small unglamorous steps, and I'm trying to prepare myself for if I need to switch up my career.
Again.
Yes.
Girls.
So, yeah. Hey, whoa. I'm not an addict to school. I feel alive. It's like,
Oh my gosh. You're like, so I'm just going to reinvent myself again.
so basically I went from one addiction to the other, reinventing myself. No, I just think follow your dreams, like life's too short. So like, I think of it more as an opportunity. So instead of it being a roadblock that like, okay, it's not so easy to just transition to the States.
Yeah.
What do I do? Okay, I'd have to go back to school. I can either go back to school for this amount of time and then I'd have to rebuild this, or could I get into the trades?
Oh shit, yeah.
Could I become
Dani the plumber, Dani the electrician?
Yeah. Dan the man, let's freaking go. So I've made some steps to kind of work towards doing stuff like that. Who knows? I just think like, who cares? Like just like go towards it, see if it works, and you never know. You might find me have a whole crew of girls behind me working.
I've been thinking about the trades mostly because every single time I have to hire my plumber, I'm like, this guy just charges whatever he feels like right now.
Yeah. Wouldn't you love that?
Like literally, I think so many times I have to get a plumber in. They're like, oh yeah, I was there and I asked them like, how long were you there? Can you send me pictures? Like, cool. And then sends me an invoice. Like he worked 15 minutes, sends me an invoice of $160. I was like, what? Why am I in this wrong industry where I can just show up?
Life at the top.
Life at the top.
But it's kind of cool though. If you're in that scene, you're told like you can't do this, you can't do that. You're a girl, whatever. And growing up in the community I did, like women were like dogs. It was like a dog, like a man, dog, woman.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking bad about dogs, okay? But it was like you would never be able to do something like that. And so I think that kind of pushes me sometimes too, that I'm like, wouldn't it be cool to do this? Like, wouldn't it be cool to like start this own business? And shout out to my friend Stacy. She created a female renovation company called Fix It Females.
Love.
And so it's just like all females that work there and work on houses.
So you have a spot.
So cool. Yeah.
She has a spot for you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Talk about the Ellen DeGeneres.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the Ellen DeGeneres story. So I'm struggling in this community, and I dreaded Sundays. So Sunday, we'd wake up, we go to like Heidelberg Catechism, where you're like memorizing, like if someone was like, what's question 36 of the Heidelberg Catechism, you have to be like, like, obviously I didn't do well. I never actually took the, do the profession of faith, but you're just getting drilled. And then we'd like do, another hour or two of church, and in between going back to church and youth group, we would typically go to my step-grandma's house for lunch. And at this time, like, I was just like really struggling, but going through, like, I think I had like my first girl kiss that night before, like around that time. And so we're at this huge table, and it was around the time that the Ellen DeGeneres show was out. It had just come out. And I don't know what it was like for you, but that gave me hope when I saw that show out. And she got she was warmly received.
Yes.
And she was funny, and like, just, it was like a proud lesbian moment.
Yeah.
And I remember my aunt being at the table and saying, people like that should not be allowed on television. Oh. And my heart just sank. And then I'm going, whoa, if you knew what happened yesterday, I'd be having some hot soup thrown at me. Okay?
Holy water.
Yeah. So, I mean, I always like tell people, it's like, you never know what someone's going through. Like, be careful what you say, right? Especially when you're like talking about people, like, if you're different, you're not going to be welcome in this space type of thing. You really don't know what people are struggling with at the time.
Yeah, very true. Well, thanks, Dani, for coming on my podcast. I appreciate it
so much for having me.